Right.
Yes, we can help prepare, which is a cognitive preparation because we know more about hospital procedures, we know more about interventions than most people do. So, education is there. We understand evidence, we can present that.
Mm-hmm.
We can teach them tools,
Yeah.
skills, which we can do for them or the partners can do for them. So, that is also there. So, these are very tangible things.
Yeah.
But I think the heart of doula work is not tangible, it's not something you can touch upon.
Yeah.
Our eyes seek somebody in whom we can rest or be witnessed, and the doula is that.
Hi, welcome to the second episode of the podcast of the Ma Life. I have with me a very special and accomplished guest. She's someone who's been an anchor to me and to several birth workers across India and globally. She's someone who has worked with birthing families for close to 20 years and is also the founder of the biggest community for doulas in India, which is by the name of the Doula Collective. I would like to now ask Divya about her work into her introduction into the birth work and more questions around that. So over to you, Divya, and a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here. So, I started as an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the motto of my life is go with the flow. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the universe reflects it back by showing me the way. And when I got pregnant, I mean, I had a deep desire to have a child. And then when I got pregnant, which was pretty much easy, I realized that I needed a lot of support. And I'm talking about the late mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, we didn't have much. So, what we did have was Nani Dadi
Okay.
and a lot of support from there. And even that was very, very valuable for us.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of my own birth, the birth of my son, I realized that, women do need more.
Yeah.
And that's how I sent out a wish to the universe saying, what can I do more?
Mm-hmm.
And then doors started opening. And it's a very interesting journey because every time I thought, what more,
Mm-hmm.
something came up. And I just went from one bit to the other. So it wasn't like a very dramatic plan or a very serious, intention. The intention was very open. It was to uh, support women,
Right.
and things just came my way. So I'd say very lucky.
Wow. Okay. So, did things change for you when you birthed your second child? I know that you have two children.
Yes, I had two children, and if anything, it reinforced that we need support. And it's the quality of that caring that I got from family, especially grandmother.
Okay.
That was really missing. I think as we came into the new world,
Mm-hmm.
we got a little bit more isolated and a little more intellectualized.
Hmm.
So that
Okay.
beauty, the rhythm, the ritual was a little bit lost. And I've strived to bring that back in a new avatar.
Wow. Okay. So, what you are indicating at Divya, is it the traditional knowledge around birth work? Um, did you have it back then? Were you supported by the traditional wisdom? And do you think is that something that is missing in the birth work and our community these days?
So a little bit of a long answer to that. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at tradition
Hmm.
and you go maybe 100 miles left, right, north, south,
Mm-hmm.
tradition changes. So what does it tell you? That traditions were created by societies to support whatever the culture was there.
Mm-hmm.
If you go across time, traditions change. So, traditional wisdom is about understanding the needs of the woman in pregnancy or the needs of the child
Hmm.
and then ritualizing it to
Right.
whatever is available. I'll give you a very simple example of
Yeah.
this cooking. If
Hmm.
you go across India,
Hmm.
the oil in which you cook traditionally changes because that oil grows there.
Yeah.
Sarso ka tel,
Yeah.
mustard oil to coconut oil
Yeah.
to groundnut oil.
Yeah.
These are traditional,
Yeah.
but they're traditional to a reason. So when to a region. So when we say tradition, we have to recognize that this was something that worked for women and
Hmm.
it met their needs.
Yeah.
And if that is true, then we can just take pieces that actually meet the woman's need and give it any shape and form, and that is the modern tradition. because the need of the woman, the need of the baby, the need of pregnancy, the need of human beings has not changed in a millennia, I think, or maybe even more, ever since we evolved.
Right.
So, how we meet that need can be a new tradition. We can draw the wisdom of the old one
Hmm.
without getting caught with the ritual, and we can give it a new shape. So, something that was physical can become digital,
Yeah. That's
but
very profound, actually. I mean, that's very deep.
but honoring her needs,
Hmm.
it should be the heart of any kind of ritualization or tradition. So yeah, in that sense, I've loved hearing what different communities do around pregnancy, birth, postpartum,
Mm-hmm.
and then thought about, oh, what are the similarities? A lot of people try to find the difference between traditional and modern. I
Yeah.
like to find the similarity, and believe me,
Hmm.
if it is the truth, it is universal.
Wow.
So I can draw upon that, whether it is confinement of 40 days, whether it is, breastfeeding diet, whether it is food or nourishment, or even emotional, containment during pregnancy. That's the need of the woman and the baby.
Right. Wow. So, taking cue from your answer, what is the sort of emotional and mental preparation a mother needs during pregnancy?
So this is kind of a complex answer
Mm-hmm.
because we like to think that our emotional mental landscape is very individual and very much within our control.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually, science tells us that 90% of our mind is programmed. So the preparation that is needed would be the bridge between what we have gathered or what we already expect and
Mm-hmm.
what is reality.
Yeah.
And for some people that might be a very big jump, and for others it might be little. So mentally that preparation is to understand what is pregnancy, birth and motherhood or parenthood, and what is my idea of it
Mm-hmm.
and what is available. So if you take three corners of a triangle,
Mm-hmm.
what it actually is, what is available, and what do I expect. So preparation would be somewhere in the middle
Right.
that allows you to open up to what is available versus what I desire and what is actually needed.
Okay.
Say, for example, I want to breastfeed because I know it's good for the baby,
Yeah.
right? It is the need of the baby and it is the design of the baby to come to the breast and breastfeed. So I really don't have to do anything. That's biology.
Hmm.
My expectation is that I will breastfeed, and the reality is the baby will be separated in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, what is my mental preparation? Firstly, to accept that if the baby stays with me and has all the environment that encourages their instinctive behavior, then breastfeeding will happen. I don't have to do anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then go and work out the reality with my doctor saying, I don't want the baby separated from me. It's the
Yeah.
simplest example that I can give for the mental preparation. Same thing about birth.
Hmm.
Again, the idea is that I have to have a natural birth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But by default, birth is natural. I don't really have to do anything. The minute I do something,
Hmm.
it's no longer natural.
Mm-hmm.
So, like breathing. I mean, if you say, I have to breathe naturally, oh, but you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I like that analogy. Yeah. Yeah.
so I think the biggest preparation that we have to do in today's time,
Yes.
modern context,
Yes.
which is different from previous times, 2 generations ago, is that we have to learn how to surrender. And that was a default setting 2 generations ago.
Hmm.
So the biggest preparation emotionally, mentally we have to do is to be in allowance of uncertainty.
Wow.
That's the
That's
most difficult
that's
thing.
and that's also very powerful
Yeah.
as a statement.
Yeah.
Okay. Taking up from where what you just said, that modern day women, most of them, they are birthing at hospital like setup, which are quite commercial and which are quite made up, right? I see that smile coming in. See that smirk coming in. Okay. So, do you also see some sort of trauma creeping in babies when they're separated at birth?
Um,
And how do you think that affects breastfeeding?
okay. So the smile was because I've worked in a hospital for 20 years.
Okay, wow,
And
yes.
and that was a different, it was a paradigm shift. So while we can talk about in generalizing that hospitals are commercial or this. I think that there are good setups still out there, good care providers still out there who are willing to change. They just don't know how to.
Hmm.
And yes, I'd say that separation from mother can be hard for a baby.
Hmm.
Whether it is a trauma or not is completely different. And that lies in the definition of trauma. And I prefer to use the one that Peter Levine gives,
Okay.
that trauma is not in the event, it is in the nervous system. So now, depending on what the baby's perception of that separation was, including the time, the quality of it, whether it is trauma or not, we don't know. But is it hard for the baby? Yes, because they are designed biologically to be with the
Hmm.
mother.
Yeah.
So think about it this way: that
Yeah.
you have a certain expectation,
Yes.
and you know that if I don't get this, this is the only safety I have,
Yeah.
and then that's taken away. How would you feel?
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave you with that.
Yeah.
And depending on who you are, what your resources are, how well established your nervous system is, you might be able to say, oh, that was a really uncomfortable experience, or
Hmm.
you'll say, oh my god, that was traumatic,
Hmm.
because it's not what happened.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
separation itself is not the trauma, it's their ability to deal with it.
Right.
And then what happens before the separation and after the separation
Yes.
will add on to layers of how much we are asking this baby to adjust right after they are born.
Right.
And therein will lie the trauma or not.
Right. I think it's worthwhile to also talk a little about the trauma that mothers carry to pregnancy. And also, on that context, does this trauma get passed on? Is what my next question to you would be.
So we do know that there's intergenerational trauma.
Okay.
But what is the face of that trauma? It's such a buzzword,
Mm-hmm.
trauma.
Yes, it is
It
these
is,
days.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm hearing small children,
Mm.
teenagers using the word,
Mm.
right? So, what is getting passed on? My ability to be in this world, feel safe and function, which is well being,
Mm. Mm.
mental, emotional well being, arises from the resources of it. It's like a bank account. How much money I have in the bank
Mm.
will uh, will show how much my spending capability is, or how financially safe I feel. So if I say I have 1,000 rupees, but my expenditure is only 500, I'm 500 rich.
Mm. Mm.
I can have 10 lakhs, but with an expenditure of 11 lakhs, then I am 1 lakh poor. So it's
I get
not
that.
what you have in the bank, it's also what you're expending.
Mm. Mm.
So if in today's life we have emotional credit or bank balance, which is not being used up, then no matter what life throws us at, it's not trauma. If we are constant in a state of overdraft,
Mm.
then we don't have enough for ourselves. And unfortunately, we don't have anything to give our children. And I'm not talking in terms of love and attention. We are giving them love and
Yeah.
attention, but teaching them, and that may not be, we don't teach them. Their ability to learn from us is restricted to what they can see, which is overwhelmed. So it gets passed on.
Mm.
Their ability to be in the world becomes even lesser. Their bank balance is even lesser. Their legacy is of debt.
Mm.
So that could be a passing on of the trauma. But it's more about how much I have, how
Mm.
much I need to expend, and how much can I get back. Resourcing. Instead of trauma, we should talk about resilience and resource.
It's a wonderful way to look at it. Leading from here, I would want to ask you, do birth work professionals in India have the ability to provide trauma informed care?
They have the ability,
Okay.
they may not have the knowledge,
Okay.
but they do have the ability. I mean, it's a learned skill.
Hmm.
How do we learn anything?
Yeah.
Once we become acquainted with it, once we understand it, once we learn about it, our ability upskills. So they do have the ability. They may not have the exposure to it. Nobody maybe is talking about it,
Yeah.
right? So it's fairly relatively new in other disciplines as well, which is what we call trauma informed care.
Yeah.
And so once we're exposed to it, we start learning about it, we understand it. I think all of us can give trauma informed care.
So, if you have to give this out as an advice to someone who is into birth work, who wants to learn more about trauma informed care, what would be a starting point for them?
So there's a wonderful book
Hmm.
they can go for. That's the trauma informed care in perinatal care.
Okay.
So that could be a starting point. They can look up courses. In fact, at the Doula Collective, when we do a training, we have a whole um, seminar on
Yes.
trauma informed care. Um, you studied it.
Yes. Yes.
We apply that to in different ways in our profession. We know that people who join that course are not only doulas, lactation consultants. We had pediatricians.
Yes.
And the minute you understand how our body looks at, how our nervous system interacts with the world, we understand trauma informed care. That's
Yeah.
it. That's how we start, and that's how we integrate it into our work. So anybody can do it,
Right. Right.
and they can do it in different ways,
Hmm.
starting by education and exploration.
Right. Okay. So, what sort of a role does a doula play in the preparation, not just mental, physical, but like in a holistic way? How can a doula assist a pregnant family? And I also would love to hear your experience being in the doula space for such a long time and hand holding the families.
So again, not a simple answer, because the essence of this work cannot. We don't have a language for it. When we talk about doulas, we say we support women,
Yeah.
we help can be a word, assist is something that you said. But do we really? I mean, it's a question to ask.
Hmm.
Somewhere we empower women. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of my cliches. Like, we don't empower anybody,
Yeah.
we don't do anything. If we do nothing, does having us in their life change them? It's
Mm-hmm.
a subtle exploration of our presence.
Yeah.
Yes, we can help prepare, which is a cognitive preparation, because we know more about hospital procedures, we know more about interventions than most people do. So, education is there. We understand evidence, we can present that.
Mm-hmm.
We can teach them tools,
Yeah.
skills, which we can do for them or the partners can do for them. So, that is also there. So, these are very tangible things.
Yeah.
But I think the heart of doula work is not tangible, it's not something you can touch upon. And the reason I'm saying it is because I've had the good fortune to be mentored by somebody who worked with indigenous midwives, which are the dais, and they're
Mm-hmm.
called by different names. It is not a new concept of having somebody, another woman, at birth. It's not a new concept.
Yeah.
In India, we've always had it.
Yeah.
We used to have rooms in our homes where the daughter in laws and daughters of the family would go and give birth,
Mm-hmm.
and other women in the family would support them.
Mm.
The dais would support them. So, what is it that the presence of this woman changed for me that would help in my birth? And that is the essence of doula work that we are not able to articulate because we don't have the language for it. So, have you seen a child go up on stage and their eyes seek their mother in the audience? The mother's not doing anything, but knowing she is there
Yes.
changes something,
Yes. Yes.
right? And this, I can give examples, many, to illustrate.
Yeah.
Our eyes seek somebody in whom we can rest or be witnessed, and the doula is that.
That's such a beautiful thing to say. I feel like placing a hand on my heart and just
Yeah, yeah,
feeling that for a moment.
yeah,
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 it's a very beautiful thing to say.
yeah.
Okay. Now I am very curious to know what made you start the Doula Collective, even though I am a graduate from Doula Collective, but I want the world to know
I-
what was the inspiration behind Doula Collective, and then I have a few more questions about.
so I'm going to ask you a reverse question. How do you feel being a part of the doula collective?
Very supported
And
community, sisterhood, Right.
And that's my answer.
Yeah.
So I practiced for about a decade by myself.
Okay.
There wasn't even a backup doula. And if I wanted to talk about birth, imagine where I would go and talk about it to nobody. It was least likely to be talking on the dinner table about placentas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody's interested. But also the ups and downs. There is a certain moment in birth where you feel like you're one with the woman, and that's the point where you're like, oh my God, nothing is working.
Yeah.
I'm tired. When will this be over? And then there's a switch. There may be a moment where, like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing I've seen in my life. But who do you share that with? Because people don't get it.
Yeah.
Think about an emotion is that you can tell them, oh, I'm really happy, I'm really excited, but they don't get that. And that's a very lonely space.
Hmm.
So to feel supported, feel seen, heard, shared,
Hmm.
community, everything you said,
Hmm.
that was the inspiration behind Doula Collective.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm happy to say that 8 years,
Wow.
and we're still going. It's going in the right direction, more every year.
Okay. So, who all can approach Doula Collective if they want to be a part of the community? And do you set out some boundaries? Do you set out some rules for people to be a part of the collective?
So a couple of things that I didn't want in the collective. I'll start from there.
Uh huh.
I didn't want a renewal fees.
Uh
I
huh.
didn't want a membership. I didn't want an exclusive cohort. And so anybody can join the Doula Collective.
Okay.
It's open for everybody. We have community events which are free and open for everyone. We do webinars, we do meetups, we also do a physical retreat. There's no criteria of joining except willingness.
Right.
The rules are a little bit more ethical
Hmm.
in terms of that is non-judgmental, supportive.
Hmm.
You have to be accepting. And I find that people who come and join the collective actually have that curiosity like, oh, there are so many different people and everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah.
And when we come together with that attitude,
Hmm.
we have abundance.
Hmm.
So I think that's the rule. Come with an open heart
Right.
and bring whatever you have. We want
Right.
it.
Thank you so much for answering that about Doula Collective. I'm sure there are many out there who might be listening to this in the present time or in the future who would really be curious to know more about Doula Collective, and they can always find out.
So there are two parts to it. The community is open to everybody,
Right. Okay.
and the work that we do in the community is purely voluntary. We run a postpartum group, which is voluntary.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The other part is the training.
Hmm.
The training, of course, is a select cohort.
Mm-hmm.
There is a fee component to it, but the community part has no fee component. That is open to everyone.
All right. Thanks for answering that. What you just said right now is that there is some voluntary work that the Doula Collective doulas do for the postpartum mothers. So here is my question to you, Divya. There is a lot of preparation that and talking that people do about pregnancy and childcare, but there is still very little information awareness about postpartum. Would you want to share your experience working with mothers postpartum?
So when we started the group, the idea was that there is nothing for postpartum moms.
There was nothing.
There was nothing. And since we were a digital platform,
Yeah.
we couldn't offer physical support.
Mm.
So for physical support, of course, there's the chapa, the massage lady, so there's a lot of physical.
Mm-hmm.
But a common thread that I've seen through socioeconomic groups and cultures is the focus shifts very quickly from the pregnant mother to the baby.
Mm.
And she's kind of like, oh, okay, and what about me?
What about me?
And no matter what her story is, how her birth went or how she feels, everybody's expecting her to be happy because the baby is here.
Yeah.
And that is an added burden. So the idea, what we presented or what we bring in the Doula Collective is a postpartum listening circle.
Yeah.
We listen to the mother. So there are quite a few resources now for pregnant women, for postpartum women, which includes also lactation consultancy.
Hmm.
Everything is there, but it's really piecemeal,
Hmm.
and it's from outside of her. But nobody wants to hear her.
Yeah.
And what is funny is that we get postpartum mothers who are 5 years old children, 7 year old children, much older children,
Yeah.
and they still want to be listened to. So they join our circle. And it's just a sharing.
There's a very popular quote um, that I saw running on some Instagram page saying that a mother would never forget the way she was treated in her postpartum period,
Yeah,
which does mean that her memories from postpartum do become a part of her core memories
correct,
throughout her lifetime.
correct.
So, what is it that, how can we all make it better for mothers postpartum?
So basically, the quote is that says that a woman can forget what you said, what you did, but they never forget how they felt. So probably the best thing you can do is to take a pause and ask, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And reframe that. Because how she felt is a permanent story for her child. When you were born,
Yeah.
I felt so. And that becomes the child's story. And I think it's a wonderful story the child hears: when you were born, I was euphoric.
Yeah.
Rather than when you were born, I was depressed, or I was lost, or I was guilty, or whatever else the story might turn out to be. And it had very little to do with how birth happened, but a lot to do in how she was um, seen and heard. So,
So, for
asking
me,
her how
the
she
takeaway
feels
from this would be, how does a mother feel seen
and
and
heard.
heard during her postpartum
Correct,
period? Wow.
correct.
Okay. S-
And the
Yeah.
other thing that we forget is that we feel that she's supposed to feel in a certain way joy.
Yeah.
But women are capable of holding sadness and joy together in their heart. Talk to a mother who has two children, one has passed and one has failed. She holds both. So, the birth of a baby could be very, very joyful, but it could have also meant a loss of an experience for her. Could have meant. And we're not listening to that.
Yeah.
She needs to um, say or articulate that, experience that, process that, as well as the birth of her child. So, unless we don't hear her, we don't go into the depth of how she feels, holding the two sides of the emotional spectrum, but not she's not going to feel fulfilled, because you're only acknowledging part of her.
Yeah. I'm myself taken back to my postpartum days. And I think a part of me just healed one more time. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
So, just sort of now heading towards the last segment of our podcast. So, with all the knowledge that exists traditionally, the traditional wisdom, and with all sort of support that we have in way of very evolved doctors, or you know, pediatricians who are supportive of mothers' choices, or the birth workers, the doulas, the midwives, what sort of amalgamation do you see, and where is it, and how is it that all of this, you see all of this coming together?
So I'm going to name the parts,
Hmm.
because each woman is unique,
Yeah.
right? And there are different parts of it, of a picture that she might already have,
Hmm.
or she might want, or she might need. And so, in today's time, the modern woman, she would want information. That is key. Information makes us feel in control. She might need space to then integrate that information, percolate it down, and make it knowledge.
Hmm.
Challenge it a little bit. She might need to let it move through her body and say, while this may be good information, this is how it happens, it doesn't fit with me.
Hmm.
So it's a process. Now, some women will come from a point of view that we are fluid, and they might need a little bit more knowledge to kind of flow in the right direction. Or some women may come with a lot of cognitive knowledge and they
Yeah.
might need a little bit more soft or fluidity to let it go.
Yeah.
So while we look at women and we might have a certain way of doing things, we'd want to look at, is she getting every bit of mind, body, spirit um, support?
Hmm.
Because she's capable of integrating all of it
Yeah.
and growing from it. And then she might make a decision that may not fit in well with us, but it fits in well with her life. Because one size actually doesn't fit all. She's
Yeah.
not coming from a vacuum.
Yeah.
She has a story behind her, and this is where she is today. And when we offer her all aspects, I'm here for you, here's the information, I'm here with you. What is your spiritual belief? Who do you want there? What do you need emotionally? We've got to be fluid with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is. I mean, gone are the days where instinct took over. We say birth is instinctive, but our instincts are also honed through experiences. We're not living in a vacuum. This up here, it's
Yeah.
the biggest strength, but it's also our biggest limitation.
Yes.
So we must use it um, best we can,
Wow.
so that we feel fulfilled.
I'm very curious to know one more thing from you, Divya. You are someone who's very accomplished, even in the international space. How do you think the world is looking at us in terms of providing good antenatal and, you know, postpartum care to a woman? Do you think in India we are now getting there? I know you spoke about that India has always had that sort of support system of DIs and traditional midwives doing their work in supporting the woman. How do you think it is changing? And I want to ask this more from the. Um, I mean, we'll probably have to, edit this question. But my question to you is: there are the world is also looking at us. How Indian wisdom, traditional knowledge, the knowledge of Ayurveda, the knowledge of how women in India have birthed their babies is something very profound.
Yeah.
There is a lot of now literature that is coming out. Probably was always there,
Mm.
but now it is getting the center stage attention.
Mm.
How do you think, because you have spent some time in the US, and you have spent time birthing, helping women birth in
Helping.
setups like those. So
Mm.
I want to understand from you, how does it look on the global platform for us?
Okay, till you articulated this question, I never thought about it.
Okay. So it's like a
Um,
bouncer to you now.
um, it's just the way it shifted in perspective. I've never considered how others look at us. The journey is about how I grow. And I think that has been always the way I've looked at things. I know that we're getting popular in terms of turmeric, in terms of Ayurveda, but I don't think that I mean, these are not these specialized pockets. If we understand the principles, if we apply them to human biology, if we understand the science behind it, I think there's a sense of synchronicity, like um, gut health. People are talking about gut health. We're looking at it from the Ayurvedic way. It's not, it may be defined in the Ayurvedic way, but the needs of the gut don't change from Ayurveda to
Yeah.
anything else, right? Whether we make traditionally or culturally kanji
Hmm.
in Punjab, we make this fermented drink,
Yeah.
or we do kanji in a different place. I mean, fermented food is good for the gut,
Yeah. Yeah. We all
has
know.
got
Yeah.
nothing to do with any particular way of doing it.
Hmm. Hmm.
We understood this. That is the bottom line. So it's not so much as what the world is seeing us as, it is what we understand about our bodies, about ourselves, and integrate that into our practice. I wouldn't waste too much time thinking
Okay.
about how others perceive us.
I'll also tell you the inspiration of where this thought came from. The recent Doula Collective retreat that happened. It had some participants who were like some global participants as well. And I could, because I was there in this 2025 Doula retreat, I could see the interest with which these global participants were wanting to know how is it that we do it here. And also, I've seen Doula Collective does have guests, speakers who are based abroad, and do have students, international students also, as a part of the cohort, the learning cohort. So, I'm just very curious to know how do you, how do you become accepting of them, and how do you cater to their curiosity about the
Uh,
traditional practices that we do here?
so you saw them being curious about us, but I
Yes.
also saw us being curious about them and their practices. So it's more of a give and take.
Okay.
And that's the beauty about women's business that we
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
How many times have you eaten something at somebody's house and spontaneously asked them, "Oh, what did you put in this?" That's sharing of information right there. So, if you go from community to community, country to country, you will
Yeah.
find that there are practices that they do traditionally,
Hmm.
and they are towards one goal.
Hmm.
And we know what that goal is to enhance the woman's experience
Yeah.
or to create a safe environment for her. They are very common goals
Hmm. Hmm.
because birth happens in those goals, whether it is our culture or theirs. Now, some older
Hmm.
cultures have a long lineage of tradition,
Yeah.
and the newer ones are creating their own. So, whether it is god bharai or baby showers,
Yeah.
what are we actually doing? Is we are celebrating the fertility of the woman
Yes.
and offering her wisdom for an easy birth.
Wow.
So I don't worry about so much about how they see us. I'm just always curious about who's doing what and where does the commonality or the similarity lie,
Yeah.
because that there is the truth.
Yeah.
I keep going back to this and I say it many times. If it is the truth, it is universal. People will approach it in
Yeah.
different ways, but when you reach at the heart of it, you will find the truth. So I'm always curious about what we are doing and why are we doing that and what they are doing and why are they doing that. And
Okay.
in the heart of it
That's
lies.
a very nice, very lovely take on that. All right. Thank you so much, Divya. This has been such an endearing experience for me. It
And
is.
me.
It's been a privilege to, as your student, to interview in this space. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you.
Grateful.
It was just as endearing experience for me. And um, there are rare times where I'm not asking the questions. The
Okay.
students are asking the questions.
Yes. Yes. All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Thank you.